Hello and welcome back to the British and Irish Eagles podcast. I'm your host, Liam O'Neill, and hopefully my Irish accent has topped up a little bit after being home on the British Isles, but I did see my Irish mother chose the bye week to go back home, which I thought was a fantastic idea. I missed no Eagles games, but it turns out I missed Halloween and all that comes with Halloween over here in the United States of America. But before I ramble on any further, welcome back to the podcast, Mr. Mount Stevens. How are you, Phil?
Oh, good, man. Feels like it's been ages since I've been on. I mean, I only missed one, but you really notice it when you've been away for a podcast or two. So I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, of course, we had Gail on last time around. Many positive predictions which were founded to be true. And we have another special guest on the podcast today. Now, for years, many of you will have heard me make the joke, an Irishman, a Scotsman, and an Englishman do the British and Irish Eagles podcast. This may well be our first ever Welsh guest. And what an honor it is to welcome you to the show, Mike. How are you?
Over the moon, mate. Lovely to be here, and even happier to be first Welshman through the door.
There you go. Well, don't fuck it up for the rest of them, all right?
Yeah, no pressure.
Just kidding. Good stuff. Well, listen, we got a lot to get into, Mike, with the Eagles. So just to give you all listening in a bit of an idea of the agenda, we're going to do a quick recap of the Giants game, even though it seems a while ago, and talk about what we were impressed with and what we weren't so impressed with. The Eagles have made a number of signings, Howie has been wheeling and dealing yesterday, today, and last week. Three in particular, Michael Carter II, J.R. Alexander, and of course the big move for Jalen Phillips. That's Jalen, Jaelan, as opposed to the other two Jalens we have on the roster. Who knows? Maybe we'll go for 4 or 5 next year in the draft. See if we can make it even more confusing for everyone who comments on the British and the Eagles, even not just the British and Irish Eagles. We're going to look ahead to the Packers preview and see how we shape up there. I was going to be going. Well, I thought I might be going. It was kind of up in the air a little bit, but I'll be honest with you. Now that I'm not going, I'm kind of delighted because I'm shattered from going to all of the games and from traveling around. So I'm looking forward to taking it easy, watching it around a buddy's house in the barrage. Ryan Visnecki, if you're listening in, I'm looking forward to seeing you on Monday night. Before we go any further, Mike, why don't you just give yourself a bit of an introduction to everyone listening in? How long have you been an Eagles fan, how it kind of came about, and also the recent event you hosted for the British and Irish Eagles down at Patrick?
Right, so I'm basically one of the Welsh contingent of the British and Irish Eagles. There's a good handful of us down here now. A few of us went away on the trip about a year ago. We tend to meet up semi-regular. A few of us have come up to a few of the watch-alongs in London. A few of us went down to the earlier one with the Kansas City Chiefs game and the baseball as well. And then recently then for the Vikings game we had one at a Pasiunk as well. It was a bit of a quieter one on our behalf. There were sort of maybe 16, 17 of us, something like that. We normally numbers are about double that, so we just opened up the bar to the general Eagles public and they all filled in and the atmosphere was pretty top notch, to be fair. I've been an Eagles fan for a little over 20 years now. When I went to uni, I had a lecturer from Philadelphia, a guy called Stephen C. Buchwald, who's like a legend in those parts. And I've never met a human who is more passionate about a sports team in my life. I was big on rugby, still am, but I got introduced to the NFL by him. It was 2004. Eagles got to the Super Bowl. We lost to the Pats, but he held a Super Bowl party. And from that day on, I was just hooked. Game on, Eagles for life.
That's a fantastic story. We definitely need to get a host of these stories, Phil, between now and the end of the season and the off season as well. Actually, while I say that, we've got a number of guests lined up over the rest of the season. But if you are a British and Irish Eagles member and you fancy yourself as a guest on the podcast, let us know. Let us know. We'll vet you, make sure you're up to speed, and see if we can't get you on for at least a segment in one of our shows.
People named Ali need not apply.
People named Ali need not apply. I'll put David in that bracket too. Sorry, David. Good stuff. Well, listen, great reason to cheer for the Eagles, and you make me reminisce there of some of the earlier watch-alongs where we were just getting started, and we would just invite people in, and then we became friends, and all part of growing the Philadelphia Eagles outside of Philly, and now of course larger with Philly Sports International as well. So maybe down the line we'll have to call it the British, Irish, and Welsh, and Scottish, and Northern Irish, and anything else I've missed on there, Eagles as well. You'll have to set up a little Welsh chapter, Mike, a little spin-off of the British and Irish Eagles.
Happy to do that. We've got a WhatsApp group called the Welsh Birds, which is quite nice. And obviously everybody in that group will be attending the next watch-along event, which is in Cardiff for the Cowboys, another Kelly Green game on the 23rd of this month.
Are we like 6-0 in Kelly Green? Is it 5 or 6-0?
Something like that, yeah. That was one of my main points I was going to bring up for the Giants game, is that one of my main takeaways is that we are just spicy as hell when we wear Kelly Green.
There's a different vibe in the stadium when we were wearing Kelly Green as well. It's a different vibe at the tailgate beforehand. Feel like people drink more, feel like they're up for it more. The fireworks are better. It's a great spectacle. At what point, Mike, do you think the Eagles are going to have the Kelly Green back as their official jersey? Do you think that could happen?
I would love it to happen. I wasn't really into the NFL when Eagles were only in Kelly Green in the mid-90s when it changed to midnight green. I sort of missed all that. But I agree with you. I think it brings a different energy. Obviously, when we were there last year at the Link, it was Kelly Green and it was absolutely wild. I'm intrigued to see how it goes down in Dallas, because obviously when it's the return game to Dallas, that's our Kelly Green week. So taking our Kelly Green energy to Dallas, I wonder if it sort of travels well.
I think it will travel well, not just because the Eagles travel well, but also because Dallas sucks. And sometimes they don't travel well to their own stadium. I'll tell you someone who's not wearing green in Dallas, and that's Micah Parsons, because he's wearing a different shade of green up at the Green Bay Packers. And for those listening in, it is trade deadline day, and we're not normally this professional, but I believe the trade deadline passed about 42 minutes ago. So we're kind of up to speed on all of the happenings, and while we're here, Dallas made a move for was it your man from the Bears earlier on today, or the Packers? Bengals.
Bengals. Logan. Well, I can't remember.
Logan Wilson from the Bengals, and then Quinnen Williams from the Jets.
Which is a big one. But then when you look at the two first draft picks that they got from Micah Parsons, they've got these two guys for Kenny Clark, who has, I think, 1.5 or 2.5 sacks so far this year through 8 games. Quinnen Williams is a good pickup, and they've moved up a little bit in the draft. But it feels like a bit of a, wasn't planning on starting with some Dallas shade on this podcast, but feels like this Parsons trade was really undervalued. Now you look at Sauce Gardner going for 2 first-round picks as well, and you think of the impact that a edge rusher has in the league, and not just any edge rusher, one of the top 3 edge rushers in the league versus a cornerback. Value seems low now, right?
Well,
I would say, yeah, I don't feel like they're getting a great deal of value for that trade now, especially when they essentially refused to pay Parsons. And then what they decided to do was to pay Darren Bland $92 million instead, and then just watch him get absolutely torched by Marvin Harrison.
That play where he just set him on his arse, just fantastic.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
I'm kind of hoping to see Marvin Harrison Jr., do some stuff, because he hasn't really done a lot in the league so far. Anyway, this is far too much other NFL talk, team.
It's never too early for Dallas shade.
Never too early for Dallas shade. All right, why don't we kick it off with a recap of the Giants game? I was there. It was wonderful. It reminded me of the Washington playoff game, the way it started with Saquon taking off in that run, just as the game started. I remember being there because I was there for both live, and I remember watching and thinking deja vu, and he was just gone. Saquon Barkley. There are so many people who had a great game that we can't do it all justice, I don't think, on this podcast. I'm going to quickly go through them and we'll go back through them. Revenge game, of course. Goddard got 2 touchdowns. The defensive line and linebackers had 5 sacks. Barkley had 150 yards on 14 carries, a touchdown, 24 receiving, and a touchdown through the air. Jalen had a fantastic game. Tank Bigsby came to play. Smitty stood up where he was needed and counted without A.J. Brown. Jahan Dotson with an outrageous grab. And I just think there's so many things to be happy about. Obviously, the Scatterboo injury was horrific, and we wish him a speedy recovery, even though he's a Giants player, because no one likes to see that happen. And I actually think he brings a lot to the league as well. I must admit, my bet for him to have a concussion as the first injury is out the door. But yeah, I hope you get better soon. But before I go any further, Phil, I haven't given you any really airtime so far yet on the podcast, so I want to throw it over to you. And from that list that I've just kind of gone through, and you'll have in front of you, hopefully, can you pick out the one you were most impressed with for me and talk through that performance?
Yeah, and Frank the Tank, I think for me, it's the most enjoyable part of it, because we, as much as watching Saquon rip off a touchdown after the second play of the game, it was such a surprise. I was out on him. The trade, I've been vocal about it. We gave up way too much, considering he was brought in as a returner, which just was not happening from the off. I've dropped him from all my fantasy teams because I was like, well, he's gone to the Eagles. He's not going to get any points. He's a spot that I can claim for other players. And then he goes and does this, and he just brought me back in. It's that, that Godfather sketch, just when I think I'm out on him, I get drawn back in. It was nine carries for 100 yards in a game where Saquon was so explosive is what's impressive about it, because normally he'll be garbage time and get a couple of carries here or there. He might get 40, 50 yards because he's just, the Eagles are running out the clock. But he had some really seriously good plays. His ability to cut on a dime was what was noticeable for me. Like, not saying no shade on Saquon, but I'm not sure even Saquon has that ability to shift from one side of the field to the other in an instant and really make it stick and get that foot down and really go. Like Saquon, once he's gone, he can find that hole, and he has got, all sorts of abilities. But Tank really showed sort of something quite unique, I think, from an offensive point of view. And I was really surprised that he smashed 100 yards so quickly. But there was one particular play, I think we all remember that one, which was, I think it was just after Jalen took that horrendous sack. I can't even remember what the yardage was, but I feel like it was in the 20s, like 3rd and 20, 3rd and 30 even. And Tank just comes on and goes, sorry, I got this, and just goes and gets a 30-yard first down. And it's just like, that was a real standout moment for me. So yeah, I'm going to go with Tank Bigsby for my
If I was AJ Dillon, I'd be pretty nervous at the moment.
I think he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, the depth is fantastic to have, right? We're not even talking about Will Shipley here either. I mean, the depth of the running back position is crazy, crazy good. And I really thought my takeaway from the game was going to be unique. But turns out I wasn't the only one, Phil, because that was going to be my big takeaway from the game was Tank Bigsby in his role. I tell you who had a great day. That's our friend Jamal Singleton with something crazy like nearly 300 yards from both of his running backs through the air and on the ground. I'll give you my biggest takeaway from the game, and it's not a specific player on here, and that's that. The league is on notice now, right? There were a lot of people who said the Eagles weren't good enough. Jalen couldn't. They weren't good. If Barkley can't run, they can't win games, right? We've seen Jalen throw through the air 3 yards in the week before, and now for 4 touchdowns in this week. He's now 15 touchdowns through the air, 1 interception, 15-1 in terms of touchdown to interception rate, which is miles clear of anyone else in the NFL. And that threat and that knowledge that Jalen can beat them through the air, which happened the week prior, coupled with a couple of people getting healthy, means complementary football on offense is now possible again, because they're scared about the pass and they're scared about the run, which is why we saw what we saw. And the Eagles are getting to the quarterback as well with those 5 sacks. Can I just a quick shout out here to Ajomo? 4 sacks on the season already, living up to the hype preseason that not only were the scouts and beat writers talking about, but the players when they were asked who is the guy you're looking to make the big leap this year. And now with I was going to say Nolan Hunt, with Jelix Hunt, with Nolan Smith coming back from IR soon.
Practice window open today for him.
Look at you. Brilliant, Mike. Practice window open today. We got Jalen Phillips. We got Brandon Graham. He's going to get some snaps. All of a sudden, this defense looks much scarier than it did before. Mike, what are you expecting to see out of this defensive front in the coming weeks with all of these pieces?
Yeah, I'm expecting it to explode now, to be honest. I'm expecting us to sort of push on from the bye week, much like we did last year. We went into our week 5 bye. We were a little bit sketchy. We were at 2-2. We'd just been absolutely pumped by the Bucks. We'd had a couple of injuries, but then we got all our players back after the bye and we just accelerated. And I'm expecting us to do the same. I think we've got a really healthy defensive line, especially looking at the edges now. I think Jalen Phillips is a great move, provided he can stay healthy. I think once Nolan Smith comes back as well, I think we've got a really, really good edge talent then, and youngsters as well. And then you got Brandon Graham, who will get a couple of snaps, but for me, he's more of an add-on. He's more of a locker room guy. He's more of an experience to teach them the ropes rather than actually get the snaps himself. And then if the interior boys are performing like we know they can, we know Carter's had a little bit of a niggle with a couple of injuries, his heel, stuff like that. But Jordan Davis has been great. If they carry on and they keep accelerating, I think that the defensive line is going to be absolute menacing.
Love that. Yeah, love that. It's interesting. The Jalen Phillips trade reminds me a little bit. He reminds me a bit of Josh Sweat in terms of what he can bring to the team with his long, rangy arms, physical attributes. So I had to just have a quick check because I know Sweat got a couple of sacks last night. He has 7 for the season already through 8 games. So if Jalen Phillips can bring that kind of production to the Eagles in the second half of the year, I don't know, we're skipping ahead a little bit here, then it really is something for opposing offensive lines and quarterbacks to worry about. Let's talk about Barkley for a quick second. 150 yards, 14 carries, 1 touchdown, 24 receiving yards, 1 touchdown through the air. Phil, do you feel like the entire Eagles fan base had a collective sigh of relief when Barkley had broken off for that run? And are you expecting to see him just, eat the pavement up now?
Yeah, a huge sigh of relief. I actually missed the start of the game, and I came back down from putting the kids to bed, and then turned on the TV. I thought, I hope I'll not miss much, and just saw Barkley in the end zone, and I was just like, whoa, what's going on here? You thought it was too good to be true, and then so I had to rewind it back, and I watched it, and it was just like, it's just like I said, a huge sigh of relief, because it's been such a frustrating start of the season for him, I imagine, for the O-line, for the run game coordination, for Jamal, for everyone involved, and for him to rip off his typical long run at the start for a touchdown, just completely, like you said, the Washington Commanders game completely set the tone, and it's really important to have that in games where you really need to sort of get hot, get quick, because it was a revenge game. Yes, it was the Giants, but I think we all went with a little bit of nerves, thinking we do not want the set of history to repeat. Scatterbo and Dart had a really good game against us 2 weeks earlier, and thought if we don't start well, this game is going to be really, really nail biting, and it's just going to be annoying. It's never going to go away. But that kind of put that to bed early on. The reasons for that happening, it's still unclear whether the offensive line have managed to sort of figure it out, because we've had a lot of injuries on the offensive line and jiggling around, and maybe they've kind of got a bit more settled now, and they're executing their assignments maybe a little bit better, or maybe Barkley's just got warmed up and he's ready to sort of hit the ground running, sort of trying to ease in, not do anything too much too soon. Who knows? But perfect game, perfect opponent for him to do it. He's always going to do it against the Giants. I mean, remains to be seen whether the run game continues on where it left off, or whether it was a one-off, not a one-off, but you know what I mean, like a bit of an uptick game where we're going to go into sort of teams like Green Bay, Detroit, and so on, and the Bills, and it's not going to be as easy to do that. But I guess we've got to be hopeful, really, and hope that Saquon's turned the corner, the team's turned the corner, and that the offense is now clicking, like Mike said. Like, bye week's now been and gone. They kind of sorted out before the bye week this year, as opposed to last year when they came back in. But I did say that the Browns and the Bengals game from last year kind of have an eerily similar feel to the Vikings and Giants games that we've just experienced, where Vikings wasn't pretty, but then we came out and put the Giants to bed quite impressively, and now we kick on from here, and this is where we go on the run against some hard teams, but I still think they can do it.
Yeah, it's interesting. If he gets 100 yards next week against Packers, he could be up into the top 6-7 for rushing yards at the running back in the season already. How quick it can turn around, depending on what some of the other players do, of course. But I just think it's mad how quick it can turn around with a huge game like that. And I think it's safe to say the Eagles are a much better, this might be the most obvious thing in the world, are a much better team with Saquon at running back. But I think with the last few weeks, the weeks prior showed us is that they can win both ways. And with Tank Bigsby having that kind of performance, it does make you feel a bit more confident that if the Eagles were to suffer any horrendous injury to Saquon, that they would still have someone who can perhaps not fill his boots, but certainly try them on for a while. Good stuff. Hey, Mike, love to get your opinion on Devontae Smith, not just on this game, but this season. We touched on the A.J. Brown thing on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, me and Gail, and me and Gail kind of alluded to that we feel like that. Well, we didn't think AJ would go before the trade deadline, and if you are only listening to this and you haven't seen if he's here or not, he did not go. But we didn't think he'd be an Eagles player next year. How impressed have you been with Smitty, and would like your thoughts on the whole A.J. Brown, Smitty, who's going to be wide receiver one next year?
So I love Devonta Smith. I think he's great. When we were in Philadelphia last year, I was tossing up which jersey I was going to buy from the shop. Got myself a Devonta Smith jersey because I just think he embodies the sort of hardworking ethos of Philadelphia. He just keeps his head down, and when you need him to turn up, he turns up. Like, stat wise, 6 catches, 84 yards. That is super efficient. You know what I mean? You're in the teens for every single catch that you make. It's really, really impressive. And one of my main takeaways from the Giants game is that as much as I love AJ Brown and I love to see him bully people, his drama pisses me off occasionally. And it's nice to know that we can do a job without him, if you know what I mean. Like, some of the stats over the years showing how well the Eagles do with or without Brown are not favorable. Like, when he's on the pitch, we do very, very well. And in recent years, when he hasn't been on the pitch, we've struggled. Actually, it looks like we've turned a corner now. And it looks like, actually, if you put a bit of trust in the play call, in a bit of trust in Jalen Hurts and his management of the game, actually, the team can do great things. And my one worry with AJ is that he wants it all to be about him. And I think Devonta Smith cares more about the team and the result. And I think we saw a few weeks back in the Bucks game that AJ wasn't happy, and then all of a sudden Jalen Hurts is having to try and force the ball to him, and it almost cost us the game. You just don't get that with Smitty. Head down, get your job done, complete your assignment, do what you need to do.
Couldn't have said it any better myself, Phil.
It kind of makes you feel bad for the Washington loss last year. That one catch that can be considered the game-costing moment where he dropped that pass, and we were all over him a little bit to say should be catching those. But he's this season, like you said, Mike, he just shows how reliable he is, dependable, and he just, without complaint, gets on and does the job. But not only does he do the job, he does it damn well. He gets stats. He doesn't just contribute and keep the boat floating. He spurs it on to like game-winning drives and catches, really important catches all the time. So kind of like I said, I feel a little bit bad like whenever I get on his back, because I think we've got an embarrassment of riches at receiver and running back, and we sometimes get you too used to the perfection and don't realize just what we have.
Yeah, it's. I think it's going to be a topic of conversation now for the next few weeks into the off, no matter what happens into the off season and beyond until it's sorted. It'll be interesting to see what AJ Brown does. And when I say AJ Brown does, I don't mean on the football field. It will be interesting to see how his attitude shifts or changes or doesn't in the coming weeks now that the trade deadline has passed.
I'm quite interested to see what he does on the field as well, mind, because now he's had to sit there on the sideline and watch the team perform incredibly well, super efficient. And, you know, like Dallas Goedert touched the ball 3 times. 2 of them were in the end zone. You know what I mean? It's one of those ones where everybody's just doing their job really, really well. And I think it might give him a bit of a kick up the arse once he sees that actually they can do it without me. I need to be an addition to the team. I don't need to be a distraction. Well, that's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Yeah, a little bit of a dent to the God complex.
Well, I mean, it's clear that the God complex is misjudged, because while he is a fantastic wide receiver, he is not the reason solely that the Eagles are winning games in the NFL.
That being said, I would love to see him just come back this week and absolutely burn people. Watch Xavier McKinney just chasing his heels.
I would love to see the whole point thing being really. Look, I would love AJ Brown to come back and have 200 yards, this week. And it's the Eagles organization. I would not be surprised if that happened in the least. In fact, bucket here, AJ Brown, 150-yard, 2-touchdown week incoming against the Packers. And not only that, but the Packers secondary is not in a good space right now. They've just had another of their cornerbacks go down injured. He's had an MRI on his MCL and there's a tear, so he's going to be out for at least a number of weeks, and he'll certainly be out for the Eagles Packers game. So if AJ is back fit, then that could be a little one to stick a couple of quid on your betting apps back home, or if you're in a state in the USA where that's allowed. Be intriguing. Yeah, that will be an interesting one to judge and to keep looking at. Before, let's talk about another wide receiver who had a fantastic catch, Jahan Dotson. I don't think Jahan Dotson is going to light up the world at Philadelphia or anywhere in particular, but he's a good wide receiver 3. He can act as a wide receiver 2. He's serviceable, and when you've got a plethora of riches, when you look at the Eagles team, to have somebody you can trust on to make a play when it counts, so important for the Birds as they go in this run, Phil.
Yeah, well, I'm particularly grateful because I had him. He was the last leg of my parlay at the during that game, which netted me a nice tidy sum because I had him to get his over on yards, and he hadn't had a catch all game until the last one, and everyone was shouting his name in the WhatsApp groups, and all I could put in was it over 22.5 yards, because that was the last leg that came in, so that was a nice little bonus. But what a catch as well! I mean, he absolutely mossed him. It was unreal. It was a little bit similar to the Drake London catch recently of the weekend just passed as well, where you kind of try and work out exactly how he's managed to get the ball, but he did. He got the ball, and not only that, he managed to keep his balance and get himself into the end zone for a catch. But that's exactly what you expect from a wide receiver 3. You want a capable guy who's going to get 1, maybe 2 targets tops a game, and he's going to make it count. And boy, did he make it count in this game, because that's exactly the contribution you want. 1 catch, 45 yards, I think it was, and a touchdown. And, that might be the only look he gets all game, but as long as he's doing his other assignments, then he gets his rewards. Patience as well, being pretty much one of the last plays of the game. He's spent 50 plus minutes of game time on the pitch, running around, doing whatever he's supposed to do. And then he gets his stats, he gets his reward at the end. So really nice game for him. He's really come on this season. We were a little bit skeptical last season about the capital that we gave up and the impact. But he's sort of come into the season, really settled into that wide receiver 3 role, and I'm looking forward to sort of seeing what else he can do this season for sure.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a scenario where the Eagles spend a second or a third day pick on a young wide receiver. If AJ does go, and then you have Smitty, whoever we pick up in the draft, and Dotson, the other two vying for a wide receiver too.
Cooper.
Darius Cooper, I mean, my guy, but he hasn't turned up on the stat sheet really yet so far this year. But yeah, I mean, oh my God, I would love.
I think Darius Cooper had a decent contribution, although he doesn't get anything on the stats. He drew, I think, a pass interference call quite on a key down to get a first down. So not on the stat sheets, but he's doing the Dotson role. He's contributing here where he can, I suppose.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I'm multitasking here because my cats have decided it's the perfect opportunity to jump all over me, scratch me.
It's not a podcast, Liam, without the cats.
I mean, sort of people are DMing me on Teams for work. I'm trying not to get distracted, but hey, look, we're here. This is the trials and tribulations that I have to manage and overcome by living in the USA. Woe is me. Woe is me.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. And finally, Dallas Goedert. I mean, do we really need to spend so much time on Dallas Goedert here? We know he's a great tight end. He's a top 5 tight end when he's fit. He's never fit. So let's just enjoy it while he is.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed in terms of his fitness. It's been a bit better in recent weeks than it has been over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, I mean, if we can keep him healthy, not just by the way through his ability through the air, but also as a pass blocker as well in the O-line.
His blocking is by far superior to any other tight ends we've got, isn't it?
Do you think he's going to want to go and get paid somewhere after this year, given what happened, or do you think there's a chance he could stick around and just continue to play this role?
I think he might stick around, if I'm being perfectly honest, because although he is, like I say, a top 5 tight end on his day, he has missed a lot of time with injuries. And then the other sort of wide receivers, tight ends like Trey McBride, who are getting paid the big money, they're super efficient and they're super durable and they're on the pitch every week. And like Mick tends to say, your best ability is your availability. And if you can't make yourself available, even for a bit part, I'm not going to pay you all the big bucks.
I think they tried that collectively as well last season, and that's kind of probably evident to both the Eagles and Goddard that it's probably best just to stick together, because Goddard's probably not, like I said, not going to get the money that he probably wants, and the Eagles probably aren't going to find a better tight end at the moment to go in the team to do the bits that he's doing. So I feel like there'll probably be like some sort of a middle ground extension again, just to sort of give him maybe a little bit more money, a bit of a signing bonus, just to say thanks for sticking with us and performing as well as he did this season. But it just doesn't really make sense on either side. Tight ends, like you said, just don't really draw those big contracts unless they really, really stand out.
Well, I think that's the thing, though, isn't it? Like, if he went to another team where there's a need, so it's not just their availability and their durability, which I do agree with, Mike. Obviously, that's critically important. But are they the number 1, 2, 3, or 4 target on that team, right? When you've got someone like AJ Brown and Saquon Barkley in the same team and Devontae Smith, your targets are diminished hugely. If I look at the stat sheet this year so far, now I know it was a losing effort and a losing game, but the one time this year he had 9 receptions. He's 110 yards and a touchdown against the Giants. So he could be tempted to move. And I just thought of an interesting scenario. If I look at teams that might need someone like him, it would be the Patriots. For Drake May to have a weapon who could even be, the number 1 weapon, or certainly alongside some of those receivers they have. I think they've got a couple of tight ends there, but no one like Goddard. And it would be quite, maybe amusing is the wrong word. It would be interesting to watch a different Eagles player go to the Patriots over than AJ Brown, given we kind of know he wants to go there. One to monitor for sure. All right, good stuff. I think we've covered the Giants game to death. Are we giving awards out here, Phil? Who are we giving the damn right sexy to? No,
well, we can do it on the fly. I wasn't planning to, but I think my shout for damn right sexy's got to be Barkley, because, like I said, the relief and the impact of having the plays that he pulls off and him having him back to the best going forward just means so much to the team. I think I'm just going to go with Barkley. I'm sure you guys can come up with a couple other different ones to suggest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go. Oh, you go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to basically reiterate what Phil had said about the Dotson catch. Like, it's damn right sexy when you get asked to do something really, really difficult for the first time in the game, and then you can bloody do it.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that Dotson is the damn right sexy award, right? That's clear. Let me do it justice. The damn right sexy award goes to Jahan Dotson, and we'll give Saquon Barkley the. Hang on, no, Loch Lomond played the game. Sorry, should go to Jahan Dotson because I think it was the play of the game. And the damn right sexy award should go to Saquon Barkley. Shout out to Jalen Hurts though, 15 of 20, 4 touchdowns through the air, and just another commanding performance. Any other week got it with 2 touchdowns, could have got it as well. And on another week, Tank 9 for 100, could have got it. Just a great all-round team performance. And now that I've butchered the awards, let's get to the ad read so I can compose myself, and we'll get into the signings.
Celebrate victories, rally through challenges, and bond with fellow fans as you toast with a dram of Loch Lomond single malt whisky. From tailgating gatherings to watch parties at home, Loch Lomond whisky becomes an essential companion, enhancing the moments that make football so extraordinary. It's the perfect accompaniment, from the joy of victory to the bittersweet moments of defeat. Loch Lomond offer a wide range of malts, with their flagship perfectly balanced, and signature expressions Inchmoan and Inchmuren to suit any taste palate. Celebrate greatness, on and off the field this season, with a perfect balance of Loch Lomond whisky and Eagles football. From the first pour to the crowd roar. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Love hearing that every single week. Good stuff. Alrighty, Phil, I'm going to hand it over to you for a second because I need to pop into the other room. But if you want to kick us off and look at the signings that the Eagles have made, and selfishly, I'd like you to wait for Joe Phillips for me to come back. I'll be 2 minutes, I promise. So dealer's choice between former Pro Bowler J.R. Alexander, who was born in Philadelphia, and Michael Carter II. Over to you, man.
Cool. Right. So Jalen Phillips. No, I won't do him dirty like that. Thanks, Liam. Yeah. So the Eagles have been active in the trade window this year, and I must say, from a fence point of view, I'm pretty happy with it because I feel like Howie has been kind of measured, but he's made enough of a splash for us to get excited about, but not so much that we're now kind of going, well, for example, Myles Garrett, obviously that was the spectre that was looming over the trade deadline for me and everyone else, was that it'd be great. And don't get me wrong, I'd be over the moon if we got Myles Garrett in the team. Don't get me wrong. There's no two ways to put it. But the capital we would give up would definitely be a big talking point, and we'd have like 3 first-round picks gone for the next.
For me, it was too much when that all came out in the media and the press when they were talking about 3 first-round picks. My initial thought was Myles Garrett, absolute game wrecker, give them what they want, and then I sort of slept on it and I had a little think, and I thought, well, let me put this into context. Our last 3 first-round picks were Jahad Campbell, Quinyon Mitchell, and Nolan Smith. The talent and the sort of potential that you have with those 3, the idea that you could miss out on that possible potential over the next 3 years as well, for me, would have been too much.
Yeah, like the way that the fact that the Eagles are good at drafting, or have been good at drafting over the last 3 years, definitely is a factor in that. Other teams might look at those first-round picks and go, well, we don't seem to have much luck picking guys out of the pot in the first round. So, hey, we might as well get a player like Myles Garrett where we got guaranteed talent. And that's the 2 sides of it. It's guaranteed talent versus, the mystery box. Is it a speedboat? Or it could actually be something more. Is it Micah Parsons? Or you've already got Micah Parsons. Why are you going into the box? Jerry Jones style. But so from that perspective, I would have been okay. We would have made peace with it. We would have been excited. We would have been going to the second half of the season going, just hand us the Super Bowl now. But then, like you said, we've just said that the first round picks do weigh heavy a little bit, and you're thinking, what are we going to miss out on? And it'll be hard going the next sort of 2-3 years thinking what are these players that we're going to miss out on. But so that being said, this window with Carter II, Jay Alexander from Green Bay, from Baltimore Ravens by way of Green Bay, and then Jalen Phillips was sort of the big one. I think those three together have kind of encapsulated exactly where the Eagles see themselves. They don't need to go make a big splash, but they want to make enough of a splash to put the league on notice. As much as improve the team, we need those players, but we also want the rest of the league to go, the Eagles are definitely seeing themselves as Super Bowl contenders and are going for it for the rest of the season. But not only that, they're not picking up players that are in their 30s like Myles Garrett, players that they've only got a short-term lease potentially on. They're picking players that, as Howie's demonstrated for the last couple of seasons, also picking up former first-round picks that are sort of fallen on hard times, not quite achieved the lofty heights, but maybe that's because of the team, a la the Jets, where you're picking up players that Mekhi Becton is the classic example. And I feel like Howie is behaving that way of late in a lot of the decisions that he's making by he finds something that works and he's replicating that. He saw what happened with Mekhi Becton, thinking I can find these players. They're first round talents for a reason, but they've just been mismanaged, mishandled, injury and bad luck, or any combination of the above. So for me, we'll come back. We'll start. Liam's back, but we haven't actually covered any of them yet, Liam. So you can have your pick.
Good job.
We've just been given an overall sense of talking about Myles Garrett basically, and the prospect of that. But we'll go straight into.
Well, what was the general consensus? Are you disappointed that we didn't make a move for Myles Garrett, or are you happy with the pickups?
I'm happy with the pickups. What I had said to Phil is I would, because the price tag was 3 first rounders, and when you think about what our previous 3 first rounders were, for me that's too much talent, too much potential to give up.
Plus, you got to pay Carter, coming up as well. It would have been nice, Phil. Don't get me wrong. If we're playing fantasy NFL, and I'd be intrigued. I mean, I would love Myles Garrett to be on our team. That guy is if you think of the NFL as kids, he's an adult. He's just an adult.
Yeah, that's basically what we were saying, is that it's one of those things where we would have been dead excited about it. We would have been bouncing off the walls at having Myles Garrett and what it would mean for this season and the next couple of seasons. But we would also then be discussing what the capital means, and Mike very eloquently put about the fact that we got first round picks that we'd miss out on, and the fact the Eagles have drafted so well recently would make that a significant loss. So, but we won't cover that too much. Let's get into
we need to replace Lane Johnson soon. So
we've got needs that are going to need to be addressed for sure. So,
sorry, I'm going over all ground. Go ahead.
Yes, all right. We'll go into Michael Carter because in ascending order sort of thing. So Michael Carter was signed from the Jets for a 6th round pick, and John Mechie. Eagles get a 7th. Back in the trade along with Michael Carter, obviously. He was a 5th round pick in 2021. There's been rumors circling social media saying that this is more of a safety nickel depth. Initially, we were like, okay, this is cornerback depth, but we've then since gone and got Jay Alexander, so that kind of suggests that there's rumors that he has got the ability to play in safety position in the nickel spot as depth behind Cooper DeJean, which I think makes this signing a lot better than what it was originally. And combined with Jay, it felt like maybe we were just signing him for signing him's sake. But if he can provide that depth, that solid depth, because he's been a good player for the Jets for the last few years. He's played a lot of snaps. He's got a lot of experience under his belt. Might not be good experience, but he's battle hardened. He knows the NFL. He's going to turn up, and he knows what his job's going to be in a team like the Eagles compared to the Jets. There's a very strong chance he could excel and come out the blocks. But what do you think, Mike, in terms of because he was the first one? So cast your mind back before Jay Alexander and Jalen Phillips were on the table. How did you feel about Michael Carter coming in?
Yeah, for me, he's a depth piece. He is very much gonna sit behind some of our first string DBs, but he's absolutely serviceable. I've only seen little bits and pieces of him, but he does make a bit of a stamp on a game. He's got a handful of tackles this year, 14 in total. He's got a couple of passes defended, against the Bills and the Steelers at really important times of the game for the Jets as well. He doesn't have any big interceptions or anything like that, but he, again, makes a stand when he needs to. So for me, I think it's a good move, considering realistically it's quite a low risk move. I feel for John Mechie, who, you know, went to bed 6-2 and woke up 1-7, which is a little bit shit for him. But other than that, you know what I mean, we're really only swapping a 6th-round pick for a 7th-round pick. So even if it doesn't work out and he's not great, we haven't lost a great deal.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like Howie's just lining up like draft picks, putting them in the cannon, and then firing them out to try and solve this secondary need. You know, we still have a couple of young players who could, in the roster already, who could make a step up. But when you look at Jair Alexander and Michael Carter as a combined, it's hedging your bets. It's one of these is going to hit. If one of these hits, then you've got your whole field. Whether that's moving Carter inside to nickel and putting Cooper or DeJean on the outside and Jair Alexander doesn't cut it, or whether it's Jair Alexander on the outside and Cooper DeJean stays in the slot. What I will say is Michael Carter is still only 26 years of age. He's young. He's a piece. He's probably a piece that the Eagles could see maybe trying to develop over the next couple of years. Obviously, he's he wasn't a high draft pick to start with, but he runs a 4.36, so he's got speed. If you look at Cooper DeJean, he's 4.5. Quinion Mitchell, he's about 4.33 from memory. So he provides some speed, provides a bit of depth and versatility as well. With what the Eagles already have, when you think that Cooper DeJean has been trained on the outside, the inside, and at safety by Vic, I think it gives them another option to plug and play. And that kind of brings us into the Jair Alexander piece. Phil, I was watching some tape today. Shout out to Johnny Page. Found one of your articles online and reviewed some of your commentary. And I think the main thing from Jair Alexander is the drop off from 2024 to 2025 is like gastronomical drop off. From being a starting safety, a former 2-time Pro Bowler, to looking like he's running in mud and lacking confidence. So I think, for me, I think the Jair Alexander pick is a bit more of a punt than the Michael Carter thing. I think I could maybe see Michael Carter getting some reasonable amount of snaps, depending on what they do with Cooper DeJean. But the Jair Alexander is going to be boom or bust. I don't think there's anything in between. I don't think he's going to be okay. We know he can play at an all-pro caliber if he can get fit and healthy again, which he wasn't at the start of the season or towards the end of last. Then my mother told me something recently. I can't remember if I put it on the last podcast or not. So shout out to you, ma'am, Joan O'Neill, listening in, as I know you always do to every podcast I do. She's watched sport her whole life. Same with granddad. You don't overnight suddenly become a bad player if you're an elite player. And Jair Alexander was an elite player. You don't overnight or even over the course of a year when you're still that young become a bad player. Injuries can affect you, and that can change your outlook as a player. And that may be the case with Jair Alexander. He hasn't got the speed, the nip, the confidence in him anymore to do what he's done in the past. But it won't be for lack of talent. So for me, this is a huge boom or bust move for the Eagles, and it's low risk. You said, Mike, low risk for Michael Carter. Again, it's low risk for Jair Alexander. But the ceiling's through the roof. If they can get this guy playing anywhere near his level, then the Eagles are laughing all the way to the Super Bowl, in my opinion.
I think the coaching will come into it as well. When he was at his all-pro level at the Packers, he had Christian Parker as the DB's coach there, who's now at the Eagles. So hopefully Christian Parker knows how to get the best out of him as well. Yeah,
for sure. If that is, that will be good, and I'm sure he'll feel a bit like Jalen Phillips, we'll get to, has worked under Vic Fangio as well. I'm sure that will be good for continuity, work well together, etc. But for me, it just looks like he's not fit. So that's the hope. I mean, Phil, have you got any other take on Jay Alexander? Are you somewhere in the middle? Like, do you think he could be serviceable? Am I too out there with my boom or bust theory?
I think he's going to be just fine. We as Eagles fans are all too familiar with these kinds of signings with high expectations not working out, and I feel like that can just as easily be what's happened with Baltimore. And he's gone there. He was only fit for 2 games before being a healthy scratch. Recently, it kind of maybe feels like it's just not worked out in Baltimore. Baltimore haven't exactly been smooth sailing themselves. They've been up and down. They've had, Lamar Jackson out. They had a real bad start to the season. They're sort of maybe going to start getting themselves back now. It's not necessarily the greatest situation for him to be in. So I guess maybe I'm just optimistic and thinking I don't feel like if it was as bad as you've kind of laid out in the negative sense that Howie would be taking this punt. Yeah, it is a punt, but you don't take these punts without thinking that there is the strong chance of the upside. And like you said, Mike, he's got his familiar coach back in Christian Parker. So I kind of feel like the Eagles do need more stability at the cornerback 2 position. So we don't really want to be putting him in straight away. We want to get him used to the team. We've probably got enough to be getting on with, but there's a real strong chance that give him a couple of weeks to get settled in, that he might not be making the contributions in the next couple of weeks. But I definitely think that he's coming in to make that impact going down the stretch and into the off season.
I'm here for it if it happens. I'm here for it if it happens. We shall see. We shall see. Right. Well, let me set the stage for you, Mike, being the guest on the podcast. Big move for the Philadelphia Eagles acquiring Jalen Phillips from the Dolphins. The Dolphins team, like many other teams around the league, you seem to just be throwing in the white towel, proverbial white towel, if you will. How excited are you for Jalen Phillips, and what can we expect to see from him?
In a single phrase, I'm absolutely stoked. I think he can be absolutely epic. My initial sort of thought was, please stay fit, because he's missed so many games. Like in 2022 and 23, I think he's missed something like 22, 23 games total. Like it's a large number, but his stats when he is fit are outrageous. He's the sort of leading edge in Miami this year. He's got more pressures than anyone on the quarterback. I think it's 29 total at the minute, which is is pretty healthy. He's only got 3 sacks. They've come in the last 4 or 5 games, but he gets after the quarterback, and as far as I'm concerned, that's what we need. We've struggled with pressure on the quarterback. I know we got 5 sacks this week or last week against the Giants, which is pretty good for us. I'm not sure if that's the best so far this season, but I think he's only going to add fuel to the fire, really.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Jalen Phillips. And if you guys saw the interview with him and John Clark at the Philly International Airport, just looks like a smart guy, well presented. Shout out to Big Dom, who did his best to get in every single frame of that video as well. Phil, over to you, man. Give me your... I gave the Josh Sweat comparison earlier on today. Give me what's your ceiling here with what Jalen Phillips can be versus your floor? Where do you think this could take the Birds?
I think it's a fantastic signing, but like we've already said, with the caveat of the injury and the availability side of things, if he can give us a half dozen good games for the rest of the season, then I think that'll be hugely important. We want more than that, obviously. His ability, his play style, and his production when he's on the field is phenomenal. Maybe that has an impact on his availability because he's so 100 mile an hour that he's put himself on the line and his body just isn't able to deal with it. But hoping that we've got some serious, from being a position of need, Nolan Smith is coming back, Brandon Graham's coming back, Jalen Phillips. There's not, that ability to not be reliant, like bring in Jalen Phillips and be solely reliant on him is a bad business decision because you're not going to get that. But if you're bringing him in to supplement what is a continuously getting healthier, more available edge rusher unit, Campbell is obviously been practicing in that area as well, so you can throw him in the mix as well. It's looking a lot better than it did a couple of weeks ago. So I feel like as long as we manage him, and I'm hoping that the Eagles have shown that they can do that with players over the last couple of years, injury-wise, manage him and get the best out of him. And it could be an absolutely stonewall signing to get someone like him in. And judging by a lot of Dolphins fans that we know or used to know, they are all collectively disappointed. I think they're happy to be getting rid of players and getting the picks, but I think he was the one out of all the players that they wanted to get rid of to get picks that they didn't want to see go. They're all gutted that they've kept Minka Fitzpatrick and Bradley Chubb, and they didn't want Jalen Phillips to go. So that's always a good sign when the opposite fan base is disappointed that they've lost a certain player. So I'm going to go with that.
Yeah, I love it. And mention those pressures as well, leads the team in pressures. And I think that could be an even bigger thing for the Eagles. Like, forget the sacks. If he gets 6.5 sacks in 8 games like he did under Vic Fangio before, then fantastic. I mean, come on, that's amazing. But if he can generate those pressures, which allow your Jalen Carters, your Ojimos, your Jordan Davises to come through the middle. Likewise, if you're scheming up on third down, he's been pressuring and moving towards the quarterback from the middle, from the interior side a lot this year as well. So that gives the players on the outside, a better opportunity to get in and make a play as well. I feel like Jalen Phillips, I'm pretty bullish on this, to be honest. I can see Jalen Phillips being the starting defensive end in a couple of weeks, obviously caveating if he stays healthy. I think we'll see Jalen Phillips as the premier pass rusher, with Nolan and Hunt and Graham providing the change-ups, and then Jalen, and then Jihad Campbell. We'll see where he goes there as well. I think it's a great pickup for the Eagles, because even if we don't re-sign him after this, we're probably going to get a 3rd or 4th round commensurate pick back for him. So, and again, I don't know what the cap situation and money situation was for Miami, but like, if they let him go, surely they would have got a 3rd or a 4th round pick anyway. And, they're getting a 3rd. I don't quite know the details of how that all works. But to me, it seems like an unbelievable trade. There was no way we were getting Trey Hendrickson or Myles Garrett. We weren't going to pay that sort of cap. We weren't going to pay that sort of draft capital either. I think this is the best thing the Eagles could have done. We had big areas of need going into the trade deadline. We needed depth at the cornerback position, and we needed another edge rusher. Howie Roseman, you, sir, are a magician.
I saw a piece by Zach Berman, who was commenting on that, about just how aggressively he always does it. Whenever we have holes in our game, he just goes out and he fills those holes whenever it is, during camp, after the draft, since sort of like 2017 when he went out to get Ronald Darby. Every year since then, he's found what the problem is and he's sorted it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. All in on this move, and just hope he stays healthy. And yeah, all right. So we probably got to wrap up soon. So let's look ahead to the Packers game here. They lost 16-13 to the Panthers, which is what that made me laugh, Mike. Which is one of those like kind of like, awkward turtle, awkward balloon, however you want to do it. Losing to Bryce Young and the Panthers even is not acceptable for a team is trying to win a Super Bowl. Because that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to win a Super Bowl. They're 5-3-1, 3 losses on the year, and they drew with the Cowboys. I think that was like 40 all. 5-3-1 records. Parsons has been hit and miss. He's either been fantastic or not really there. And a big loss for them, other than their cornerback that I mentioned earlier on today. A huge loss for them is Kraft. He's pretty much been tight end 1, if not certainly top 3 tight end this year so far. Has looked fantastic. and is unfortunately for them out for the season. Talking about players who we might get back, Jurgens, Cooper. I think Cooper played a snap or two last time out. Ojulari and Epps to IR. Well, Epps has been released, I think. Ojulari to IR. Nolan Smith likely to come back. The practice window's open. We don't know if he'll be back in time for the Packers. Brandon Graham maybe might get some snaps. We'll see how that pans out. But with the way the Packers have performed so far this year, Phil, I'll come to you first. And the injury to Kraft, what's your prediction? What do you think is going to happen coming up in Green Bay?
I mean, the Kraft injury is huge, and I think they definitely still have plenty of receiving options. They haven't really seemed to figure out who consistently the wide receiver 1 and 2 are. It seems to be a variation of Gold and it's gone. Dobbs and the main guy, the other guy who's been injured all season.
Watson,
that's it, Christian Watson. You've still got
and Reed
and Wicks, Dontavian Wicks as well. So, but that's what I mean. They've still got. They haven't really settled on it. So, from one perspective, you can say, well, losing Kraft was the only sort of solid receiving threat that they had. The consistent guy who was getting touchdowns and catches per game without fail. Now they've not got him. There's doubts on whether Musgrave can fill in the role like for like, or at least up to some sort of level of standard and replace that. I heard a good quote said today on a podcast, which was, with tight ends, it never really quite works out that your backup can come in and replace you, because often it gets distributed through the wide receivers. Eagles are a good example of that. When Goddart's out, it doesn't really necessarily go to Calcaterra, it goes to Smith and AJ. They pick up the slack in the contested over the field, middle of the field catches when they come. So I would say I'm less worried than I was before this weekend. It's a big poll. Jordan Love is he's good. He's obviously a good quarterback. He's not really been consistent, and that's explained by the fact that they've tied one game earlier this season and then lost to the Panthers. So we know that they're not as good. Like, people are bigging them up way more. You've just touched on that. So I'm hoping that this will be the game where the Eagles finally make that statement to go, can you finally stop talking about the Packers as serious contenders here? Because look what the Eagles came into Green Bay and did. Despite what injuries are there, they're still a good team. And I think the Eagles are definitely more than capable of coming in and doing that. So in terms of predictions, I feel like this could be, it's going to be a very difficult game, but I feel like it's going to be quite a comfortable win in terms of, it's not going to be like what we feared the Giants game could have been. It's going to be very much, we're going to go in, take care of business, not really overly concerned with the score. I don't even know what the spread is. I don't know if either of you two have looked at the weekend, but I imagine it's not that big. But I think the Eagles will go in and even beat the spread as long as it's under 7.
I'll check now.
I can't see it being more than 5. But yeah, I think they're in a good position. We're coming off the bye. The Packers are going to be coming off
2.5.
Yeah, I didn't think it'd be.
It's Packers minus 2.5.
Yeah.
Wow. So they're giving. All right. Okay. Easy. It's good. No problem.
I mean, you got it. I'm not as confident as you are. I do think the Eagles are playing better football. I do think we'll win. But they just lost to the Panthers, man. They just lost their tight end. They're going to be fired up for this game. We're the Super Bowl champs coming into town. We've beaten them in recent history a couple of times in important games. I think they're going to be fired up for this game. I'm not sure. I'm not saying it'll be enough to beat us. I'm not sure. I put my money on a comfortable win now. Mike?
Yeah, I'm more with Liam than Phil. I do think we'll win as well. I know Lambeau is difficult to go to. It is, you get a frosty reception in every respect. You know what I mean? It's bloody cold there as well. I know it's a bit cold in Philadelphia, but they get used to being in those like sub-zero sort of temperatures, which can play a huge part on the game. For me, I think the key to us getting the win is Jeff Stoutland. You might not be able to. I got my Stoutland University jersey on. I just think the boys up front just need a massive game. I know, everyone's going to be talking about Micah Parsons getting his one opportunity to play the Eagles this year instead of the normal two that he would get. But Rashawn Gary is an absolute menace as well. We've had some issues on the offensive line with Cam Jurgens' injury. You've got Dickerson's been injured as well. Lane Johnson's missed a few snaps here and there with niggles to his neck and stuff like that. We can't have that. We need our best offensive line on there to protect Jalen Hurts, because otherwise those two are going to get after him.
I think we're going to get that. I don't know why. I know I'm usually on the fence, but I go with my gut, and that's usually on the fence. This time it's not. And I know
I'm here for it, Phil. I'm here for it.
Agreed. Let's hope he's right.
I'm not trying to dismiss Micah Parsons either, but as much of a game wreck and Gary as well, you mentioned, I feel like the Eagles are at the point of the season now where we kick on. We're very similar to how the Chiefs operate. You want to face this early in the season when we haven't quite figured things out, but now we've figured it out a little bit more. Things are getting settled. Players are coming back from injury. The Eagles are now focused on the end of the season. And kind of going back to an earlier comment about AJ Brown, I wouldn't be surprised if now the trade deadline's gone and all that's out the window, and the closer we get to the postseason, he's going to get more and more locked in, because he just wants to win, and he wants to win trophies. And the minute that starts to become a bit more clearer and a bit more of an achievable realization, he's just going to be like, you're going to hear less of it. So I'm just feel confident going in. I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts.
I'm here. As I said, I'm here for it. I hope you're right. And I'm certainly not going to put my money on the Eagles ever losing a game at the moment, because they just don't lose. What we lost 2-25 or something ridiculous. I think it's going to be tough. And maybe this is more me. Maybe I'm convincing myself because I'm not going now that good one to miss. Not be there. But for all of the reasons I mentioned, I think this is going to be a tough game. And again, not because I think they're better than us on paper. I just, I feel like this is make or break for the Packers season this week. They are 5-3-1. If they go 5-4-1, then could be on the way to their season being over. If it continues to spiral in that direction. If they come out and they beat the Eagles and they go 6-3-1 and they've just knocked over the Super Bowl champs and the first current seed in the NFC, then the players are going to be up for this game. I would expect a close one. I would expect a bit of a shootout as well. But who knows? I mean, that's just my opinion. I hope you're right,
division as well. So they've got the added pressure of knowing that any slip-ups, they've got 2, maybe even 3 good teams that are capable of winning that division. Like you said, if they go 5-4-1, that division is an entire mixing bowl. You could have anyone come out on top on that. So they know that as well.
Yep, for sure. Mike, give us your score prediction.
I think we'll win by less than a score. So I'm reckoning something along the lines of 25-22.
Okay. Right. You do know that is a score. It's a 3.
Well, you know what I mean. I'm talking a 7-point score.
I'm joking, buddy. Yes, similar. Give me 31-27. Give me 31-27 to the Birds. I would not be surprised if the Eagles lose this game. That doesn't mean I don't think they go on to win the Super Bowl, but I would not be surprised if this. I think I had this game down as one that we could lose this year. I think the momentum's in our favor, for sure. But they're going to be up for this. But I'll stick with the win. Phil?
27-17.
All right, 10 points. I feel comfortable. Hopefully some of those points are garbage time from the Packers as well, and they're just that packing.
I just love that we're all back in the Eagles. I saw something online this week that basically said this is like the golden age of Eagles football. Like, we're going in confident to these big games. Like, when I started following the Birds back in the noughties, like, you were expecting to lose. We were absolute trash for a long time. We had some painful years, but now it's lovely to go in expecting to win. So you need to appreciate this, because it won't be like this forever, but we need to enjoy it while it's here.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, my man. I say that a lot, I feel like, on this podcast. Like, enjoy where we are. Stop trying to find things to be negative about. Like, we are one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL right now, across the league, and have been for 3 years. We've made two 2 Super Bowls, we won one. And like, wouldn't it be amazing if we went and won the Super Bowl again this year and Jalen has 2 rings with 3 Super Bowl performances? How amazing would that conversation be next year when people were talking about whether Jalen is elite or not?
They'll still find reasons to talk about it.
Yeah, I would just laugh at them through my smug teeth.
Hey, Mike, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on, my man. You are firmly a part of the culture and the essence of the British and Irish Eagles.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course, we'll have to get you on again, my friend. Phil, anything else from you before we wrap it up?
Oh, all good, my end. Thanks very much, Mike, for coming in and being a very able-bodied deputy for Tony. Well, he's going through a busy period. Looking forward to having Tony back, but definitely next time we're in need, you'll be on the list of the speed dial.
He's in a busy period, but he is also going to the Packers game, and then we'll be at the Lions game as well. No. All right, guys, listen, thanks for listening in. As I said earlier, if you ever want to come and be a guest on the podcast, do let us know. We are the British and Irish Eagles. We're sponsored by Patrick Avenue and Loch Lomond whiskies. And hey, we're part of Philly Sports International now. You want to check out the UK Flyers, UK 76ers, UK Phillies, and of course, the British and Irish Eagles. Let us know. The 76ers season has started off to a blast. Go and follow all of our pages for that on social media. VJ Edcombe, I'm definitely going to get myself a jersey. I believe they're playing in a couple of hours this evening. I think Jared McCain is back as well. Shout out to Ben and Sam if you're listening in. And the Flyers are off to a decent start as well. I still need to get more into the Flyers, but I'm trying my best to reach out to Richard Skinner if you want to find out some more information on that. But for now, the Birds are 6-2. They're the number 1 seed in the NFC East. Howie is cooking, and the Super Bowl is beckoning. Go Birds.